It began as a regular political roundtable in international policy. Segment meant to foster thoughtful debate between political figures from both sides of the U.S.-Canada border. Karoline Leavitt, the young conservative firebrand from the United States, known for her bold talking points and unfiltered rhetoric, was invited as a guest on the segment. Across from her was Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of Canada and Bank of England, and a seasoned expert in economic policy and international relations. The topic was supposed to center on cross-border trade and energy policy, but as with many such high-stakes broadcasts, it took an unexpected and dramatic turn. The hosts opened with questions about U.S.-Canada relations, immigration policy, and economic partnerships. The initial tone was respectful, even measured. But it didn't take long before Karoline, perhaps trying to make a provocative point, turned the discussion into a nationalist monologue that would ignite a storm both on air and across the internet. Asterisk, as Mark Carney carefully explained the mutual benefits of U.S.-Canada trade agreements and the importance of environmental cooperation. Karoline interrupted, a smirk forming at the edge of her lips. With all due respect, she said, Canada's economy is basically a shadow of ours. You guys rely on us to keep your country running financially, culturally, and militarily. A stunned silence followed. Even the moderators looked momentarily frozen, unsure how to steer the conversation back to civility. But Karoline wasn't finished. I mean, let's be honest, she added. If Canada disappeared tomorrow, would the global economy even notice? Americans have always carried the weight while Canada sits back, protected by our military, benefiting from our markets, and criticizing us from the moral high ground. Her words landed with a thud, bold, dismissive, and dripping with contempt. For an entire nation, the Canadian contingent on the panel appeared visibly taken aback, but Mark Carney remained composed, his hands folded, his expression unreadable. Asterisk, the moderator attempted to interject, urging for a return to respectful discourse, but Carney gently raised a hand. No, let her finish, he said with a calmness that instantly captured the attention of the entire room. Once Karoline leaned back, satisfied with her rhetorical strike, Carney turned slightly in his chair, facing her directly. It's always amusing, he began slowly, when someone with so little understanding of economic interdependence tries to lecture the world from a podium, built on selective memory. The air shifted. Carney's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Every word he spoke came with the precision of someone who had sat in rooms where real power was negotiated. Canada, he continued, is the United States' largest trading partner in goods. We provide you with the energy that powers your homes, the raw materials that fuel your industries, and the stability that anchors your northern border. While you beat the drums of dominance, we quietly ensure the engines of your economy keep humming. Asterisk, the response was surgical. Carney wasn't grandstanding, he was teaching. You mentioned culture, he said, so let's talk about it. You consume our art, our music, and our film. You vacation in our cities, benefit from our research, profit off the peaceful, democratic neighbor you take for granted. Karoline opened her mouth to respond, but Carney pressed on, not raising his voice, not once breaking composure. And when the world looks at America and asks who keeps them in check, they see allies like us. Not because we need you to survive, but because the world needs balance. Canada offers balance. We lead in education. We lead in healthcare. We lead in climate strategy. And when we disagree with America, it isn't from some ivory tower, it's from a principled position built on facts and humanity. Asterisk, the studio fell silent. Even the co-panelists, most of whom had learned to navigate the tug-of-war style of political talk shows, looked genuinely surprised at the depth and poise of Carney's response. Karoline, visibly thrown off, tried to pivot. I'm just saying. She stammered that Canada relies heavily on the United States, and it's time people admitted that. Carney tilted his head slightly, a small smile forming. And yet the irony is that in every crisis, from economic recessions to climate disasters, you come looking north, not for validation but for solutions. You call it dependence, call it partnership. But if partnership offends you, perhaps it's because you misunderstand the strength it takes to collaborate rather than dominate. Asterisk by now, social media had already erupted. Viewers were screen recording the exchange, sharing clips with captions. Like Mark Carney just destroyed Karoline Leavitt with facts, and this is how you handle arrogant ignorance. Hashtags like #Carney shoots her down and hashtag Canada vs Karoline began trending within minutes. Even Canadians who weren't watching the show live were soon flooded with clips and commentary. Many expressed pride at seeing their nation so eloquently defended. Americans, too, chimed in, some in support of Karoline's nationalist stance. But many praising Carney's dignified dismantling of her argument. What had started as just another political segment had transformed into an international viral moment, igniting discussions on national identity, diplomacy, the difference between patriotism and condescension. Asterisk in the hours that followed. News outlets picked up the story. Headlines ranged from Mark Carney silences Karoline Leavitt in brutal exchange to Canada strikes back, and with class. Journalists highlighted the striking contrast between Leavitt's brash generalizations and Carney's articulate data-backed rebuttals. One column noted, "In a world full of shouting heads." Carney's strength came not from volume but from facts, clarity, and respect. Political commentators on both sides of the aisle weighed in. Some conservative voices defended Karoline, saying she simply voiced uncomfortable truths. But others, even within her ideological sphere, expressed concern that her comments painted the U.S. as arrogant and dismissive of its allies at a time when global unity was more important than ever. Asterisk Karoline Leavitt released a short statement. On social media later that evening, she didn't apologize, but tried to reframe her remarks. "I believe in American exceptionalism and spoke from a place of deep national pride. I welcome spirited debate and stand by my love for the United States." The statement did little to quell the backlash. Critics pointed out that pride doesn't require insult, and patriotism should never come at the expense of diplomacy or respect. Mark Carney, in contrast, did not issue a statement. He didn't need to. His words on live television had already said everything necessary. Instead, he returned to his usual schedule, attending policy forums, consulting on international economic strategies, and demonstrating the very global competence his rebuttal had exemplified. Asterisk the conversation sparked by the exchange lasted far beyond the segment itself. Educators used the clip in classrooms to discuss respectful debate. Diplomats referenced it in op-eds about the importance of bilateral respect. Even comedians picked it up, parodying the clash in skits, while underscoring the real implications of national arrogance. One late-night host joked, "Karoline tried to insult Canada and instead got a masterclass in humility delivered with a smile." But beyond the laughs, many noted the deeper lesson that in an era of performative outrage and viral soundbites, real leadership still resides in those who choose wisdom over volume. Asterisk for Karoline Leavitt, the moment became a defining one. Whether it damages or strengthens her political career remains to be seen. One thing is clear: she underestimated her opponent and misjudged her audience. In contrast, Mark Carney reminded millions that facts still matter, dignity still persuades, and calm intelligence can still win the day even on live television. The message resounded far beyond the studio walls. Respect is not weakness, and partnership is not submission. And in a world divided by borders, but united by challenges, leaders like Carney showed that strength lies not in tearing others down, but in building understanding.